Hello and welcome to the Living Your Best Life webinar series presented by the Huntsman World Senior Games, of course. This is a monthly webinar that is designed through covering a variety of different topics to really help you live your best life. My name is Kyle Case, and I have the distinct pleasure of serving as the Chief Executive Officer of the Huntsman World Senior Games. It's time to get to our expert presenter. Doug Harding, who is presenting our course today, has been employed as a software developer for, the last 10 years have been focused on cybersecurity as well as privacy. He is currently employed by the IRS as the cybersecurity and privacy lead / point of contact for 2 major databases. Doug's interest in security started in the 1980s when he was trained in the Army National Guard as a counterintelligence specialist. Much of his training focused on securing assets and preventing disclosure of sensitive information. Doug, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Good afternoon, Kyle. Thank you.
So, Doug, you have been in this cybersecurity game for longer than most of us even knew that there was a game. over 4 decades of experience. I'm wondering if you would share with us what is the biggest thing that has changed in cybersecurity over the past 40 years?
I would say the biggest thing from a developer point of view is the need to be aware and to write our software in such a manner as to protect it. Back in the early days, we were just writing software for a specific purpose.
Yeah.
The thought of somebody trying to hack into our systems or to take control or do things that weren't intended, to most of us just didn't even occur to us.
And so not only do we as users need to be aware of cybersecurity, but obviously on the development aspect, on the development side, you're worried about it as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, we're going to turn the time over to Doug, and he's going to share with us about how we can get the cybersecurity that we deserve. And without any further ado, take it away, Doug. Thank you.
All right, thank you, and welcome and good afternoon to everybody, at least afternoon Utah time. Like Kyle said, I have been a software developer since for 42 years. I started off as a tape librarian and did that for some years, worked as a computer operator actually I did that for several months. I was a computer operator, did that also for several months, and then became a programmer trainee as a COBOL programmer on a mainframe. One of the things I find that is most interesting to me is that in the early days, the mainframe computer we used, we wrote our COBOL programs to run in less than 50K. That means thousands of bytes of memory. Disk drives on our early computers, the mainframes, would be 10 megabytes of data for a disk pack. Right now I have a phone on my belt that contains, it's not even calculable, it's just so much more capacity than what we wrote COBOL programs. The COBOL programs are big. Just gives you an idea of how much this industry has grown. So what I want to start off with, and my presentation is going to be a lot of narrative. I do have some visual that I will get into. We'll go to the web and look at some things. But one of the things that we have to be aware of nowadays is we need to protect ourselves. That it is kind of a dangerous world out there. There are lots of people out there, bad actors, individuals and nation states who are doing what they can to steal our personal information. Once they get that information, they can turn around and sell it to those who would actively try to exploit the information they've got in the way of taking over our accounts, getting access to our bank accounts or access to our vendor accounts. For example, getting access to Amazon, and then stealing whatever they can. So cybersecurity, in my experience, in a 50,000 foot view, there are two main aspects of it. One is privacy, and then the other is the actual cybersecurity work itself. And I put privacy first because that is something that is extremely important. In the training that we receive with regards to security, one of the biggest loopholes or the gaps in security, and one of the biggest threats, is what's called social engineering. And that means getting information from people who shouldn't be giving it to you, getting information on how a system works, what its attributes are, and then using that to fill out the dossier, if you would call it that, for information about you or your business. With social media, it is extremely difficult at times to know who exactly is viewing what you post, depending on how you set up your settings. Now, I'm kind of old school. I really only get onto Facebook. I don't do Twitter. I don't do Snapchat. I don't do TikTok or any of these other things. But the things I'm talking about, the rules of thumb, if I call them, they apply to everything. If you leave yourself, if you don't, and it may seem paranoid, but if you don't keep track and you don't cinch down your permissions to what you allow people to view about you, then anybody can get access to your pictures, to your name, your birth date. With your name and your birth date, that's the beginning of creating or having enough information to create an identity that's not you, but could be used for somebody else. For example, if you don't have your access on Facebook tightened up enough, anybody could get on, go to your wall, then look at your about information, find out your birth date, find out your name, get your pictures. Then they could create a new account that looks just like you, uses your pictures, uses your name, uses your birth date, has access to your friend list, and then they send out friend requests to your friends. Not everybody who sees a friend request will think to look to see, well, am I already friends with this person? Or check to see, well, did this person have a problem with their account and now they've created a new one? I made the mistake one time of accepting a friend request from somebody that I had been friends with, but I thought I might have removed as a friend. So I went ahead and accepted that friend request. Next thing I know, somebody's on Facebook Messenger trying to strike up a conversation with me. That was so different from what I was used to seeing that I immediately backed off, checked to see, found out I still did have the old account, and then realized I had somebody who was trying to fake me into being friends. Thing about that is, had I not been aware, had I not taken the time to look this over, I could easily have given this person information. It's not inconceivable that that person could have asked me for money, could have asked me for more information, and just could have opened up a whole world of things that I really didn't want to get into. So there are things that I think that you really need to consider when you set up an account or your permissions in any social media. First off, who do you want to allow to see your posts? In Facebook, there's options are everyone, one is friends of friends, one is friends, and one is only me. With me, I only allow friends to see my posts. I also only allow friends to see my photos. With my birth date, I don't allow anybody to see my birth date. I also don't allow anybody to be able to search within Facebook and find my account. As far as my friend list is concerned, it's really nobody's business but mine who my friends are. And so again, I have this closed down to only me. Uh, these are only just a few of the things that the permissions that you've got that you can set on your social media accounts. The rule of thumb is what makes sense. Do you really have a reason to allow anybody in the world to see what you post? Do you really have a reason to allow anybody in the world to see your photos? So those are things to ask yourself. Another thing that you seem to see a lot of posts on in Facebook is these fun posts about uh, what is your name, or where are you from, or are you the oldest in your family? Where do you fit in that sequence of things? Uh, I've got a cousin who is every day it seems like there are new posts about fun little games that asks you to reveal information about yourself. Um, I don't know why she does this, but she does. And so I have to be very careful about if I want to participate, because a lot of my cousins do participate. But what do I really want people to know about me? Another thing with privacy is, who do you accept friend requests from? I every day get friend requests from people. That's one of Facebook's things. It says it gives you lists of people that you might want to add to your friend list. And it does that by matching who you are already friends with and giving you suggestions. Well, the question is, first off, do you really want to be friends with these people? Number two is, how do you know these friend requests or these friend suggestions are really for accounts that this person created themselves? Chances are that this account was created by somebody else who has managed to send enough friend requests and receive and get friended by people that you both know, that it might look like this is a real friend request account or account from a real friend. It doesn't hurt to, if you see somebody that looks like an old friend, to contact them by another medium, say for calling them or sending a text message or sending an email saying you saw that they have this Facebook account. It was created on this particular day. Is that really you? Those are some things that take some time to do, but is really, if you're going to protect yourself, these are things that are really needful. Okay, getting into cybersecurity. And one of the things that you're going to notice about this discussion is that I'm covering a lot of things, but I'm not going very deep into them. When I've been in training for cybersecurity, especially for certification training, one of the things that they tell you is cybersecurity is a mile wide and an inch deep. In other words, you have to know a lot. You have to know about a lot of things, but you don't have to go very deep in what you know. And that's the first step to protecting yourself. Now, getting into the term cybersecurity itself, a definition is cybersecurity on the whole is a very broad term, It's based on three fundamental concepts known as the CIA triad, and CIA being confidentiality, integrity, and availability. This was a new concept to me when I first started training for cybersecurity jobs, the cybersecurity job that I have. Confidentiality means that these are the rules that limit access of information. Confidentiality takes on the measures to restrict sensitive information from being accessed by cyber attackers and hackers. This goes into privacy. The less information you make available, the less chance you have of somebody using it to try to access your accounts. Next is integrity. Integrity assures that the data is consistent, accurate, and trustworthy over its time period. It means that the data within the transit should not be changed, altered, or deleted, or being illegally accessed. Basically, integrity means that information that may be gleaned from some source that you've put it out on, make sure it hasn't been changed or altered to be something else. For example, when you create an account with a vendor, you give your phone number. You also give your address if you're buying something like with Amazon. Integrity would mean checking to make sure that nobody has changed your address, nobody's changed your phone number. That would be one of the first things that somebody who has taken over your identity would do. They would get onto your Amazon account. They would change the phone number. They would change the shipping address. They would then change your password, making it so that they can make purchases, charging it to whatever bank account or credit card number that you've associated with your account, and have it delivered to them. You wouldn't necessarily know that this has happened until you start seeing your bank statements saying that you owe this much to, or this much has been taken out of your account and gone to Amazon or to whatever vendor that you like to do business with. The last is availability. And availability in terms of all necessary components like hardware, software, networks, devices, and security equipment should all be maintained and upgraded. This will ensure the smooth functioning of access to data without disruption. Now, availability means making sure that you have the proper virus detection software in place and that the definitions are updated so that if you should somehow download a program that you want to try or you're buying, you're able to make sure that before it runs, before it gets installed, your virus detection software has looked it over and has ensured that there's nothing in there that will bite you. One thing hackers love to do is they love to get control or create accounts and get control of hundreds and thousands of computers that are connected to the internet. They then will take what's known as a bot farm, a bot as in robot. They'll install software on these machines that is used to create email that gets sent out to hundreds of other people. Bot farms are also a commodity where hackers will sell access to a bot farm to somebody who wants to send out a mass email. Doesn't cost the hacker anything. It's your computer. It's on your house, in your house. It's connected to the internet all the time because it's turned on. What better source of resource for somebody to sell access to? The above information I've pulled from a website called An Introduction to Cybersecurity Basics for Beginner. It's from the Geek Flare domain. Another thing to do is protecting devices. I want to acknowledge first off that I'm going over this real fast. I'm not going into an awful lot of depth. That is part of what the beginners do with cybersecurity. We'll have time afterwards for some questions, but there's not going to be an awful lot of time, I understand, to cover everything in depth and to spend a little answering questions. But that's part of this job. So you've got protecting your devices. By device, I mean your laptop, your cell phone, your desktop, your tablet, like an iPad or an Android tablet, anything that's connected to the internet. Make sure you keep the operating systems up to date with the new releases on all your devices. That makes sure that you have the latest protection, virus detection, or fixes to bugs in the software for the operating system. Hackers love to find flaws in operating systems that allow them to take over the machine. And one of the best ways to protect that is to make sure you're up to date on your software releases. Next is to deploy and use virus detection software. Make sure you keep the software up to date. Make sure you also keep your virus definitions file up to date. Now, I've put a couple of links in here to the web. One is from PC Magazine. It's for the best malware removal and protection software for 2021. You can go to this link and see what services, what packages are available for this type of thing. I've also put a link on here for free virus detection software. This is from something called Safety Detectives. I don't really know much about it, but it's one that's out there that you can look at. Just so that, well, let's continue on. The next thing you need to do is make sure you do not use the same password for all of your accounts. That's one thing that I struggle with, and I have to make sure I don't. It's just so easy to get comfortable with using the same login ID and the same password for everything. I'm getting older. It makes it, sometimes it's hard to remember what password I've used. But the thing to do is to use a software control or a password control software. That way you only have to remember one password. That's to get into your library for your software control package. Software control packages allow you to track and to maintain a record of all the passwords you've used to all of your different online accounts. Here again, I've added a link to software management packages that are for 2021 that you can look at. And I will make this presentation available. We'll have to talk with Kyle about how you access that, but that'll be worked out after we get through here. Some ideas about passwords. Make sure you don't use the word password or something really easy like zeros or ones or twos or a sequence of numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or sequential numbers on or letters on the keyboard like QWERTYUI, which is the letters on the top row, or AAD, ASDF, and those are letters on the middle row. Hackers often will use a dictionary that is available or that they can buy on the dark web that contain most often used passwords. And they will use their software to use that dictionary and go through and try each one on the different vendors to see if you've used a simple password. I have a friend who's a contractor with the IRS in cybersecurity, but in his when he's attempting to try to hack into a computer, he says it's amazing how many times he tries to run a program that's on somebody's computer and they've left the password at the default password. That is one of the worst things you can do. It just makes you so easily available. And you may think, why would somebody attack my machine? I don't have anything on here that's worth looking at. And you may not, but still, if a hacker is able to gain access to your machine and to plant their software on it that will allow it to be used by their bot, availability of your machine, so that you don't have full use of it, because it could be that the hacker is using your machine to do other things that you're not aware of. Using a package that allows you to manage passwords, as I said, you only have to remember one password. That's the one to get into your system. The software management package will keep record of all the different, with your accounts and the passwords you've assigned to your different accounts. Most password management packages will have a password generator, and you can set the parameters on that. It will generate longer passwords, and we all know that the longer your password, the better. It makes it harder to do a brute force attack and using a dictionary just to try to guess what your password might be. If you decide not to use a password generator and you want to just keep making up your own, and maybe you record them on a sheet of paper or you record them in a file on your computer, things that you need to be aware of to make it harder to guess what your password might be. First off, make the password as long as you can. Don't forget to use special characters. In fact, some vendors require you to use special characters when you create a password. They require you also to use numbers, and then to mix your password to have both upper and lowercase letters. So these are things that you need to do. Another strategy when you're creating a password is think of a song title, and then to use the first letter of each word in the song title as letters in your password. Or use the second letter, but then remember to use mixed case, remember to add numbers and special characters into that. One final thing to do with any of your electronic devices is to use a VPN service. A VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. What that does is it encrypts any transaction, any transmissions you have between your phone, your iPad or tablet, or even your desktop or your laptop, and the place that you're signing into. It encrypts that data so that anybody who might be have the appropriate hardware and software where they can intercept your transmission, they won't be getting plain text. The information they're getting is encrypted, so they won't be able to use it without trying to break it. And one thing about hackers is they are mostly looking for the low-hanging fruit, the easiest thing that they can get hold of. I've been told that in some of the training I've got that some people will take a portable laptop, they will load the software on it so it can intercept Wi-Fi transmissions, and they will name their network something like xfinity.net, or something that a service provider would name their network. Anybody who uses Xfinity knows that Xfinity uses a common net domain name for all of their public facing Wi-Fi routers, so that you can use this Xfinity service when you're away from home if you don't have access to a regular Wi-Fi that is perhaps at the place of business you're at, or where you are in a public park. Say the city has enabled a Wi-Fi router, and it's called xfinity.com, so that you can access Wi-Fi wherever you're at. But what some people have done in the past is they'll take this laptop, they'll turn on the Wi-Fi, they'll name their network xfinity.net or xfinity.com, and then your phone will try to connect to it. And if you've already set it up to use a default of Xfinity, then it will connect. And instead of connecting to Xfinity, you're passing along your login ID and your passwords to this person's laptop. And that's just more information they can gather, as much information as they can. If, for example, you're at a grocery store and you're waiting for something, maybe you're at a pharmacy, you're waiting for a prescription to be filled, and while you're there, you decide to check your email, or you decide to check your bank account. Maybe you need to transfer money before you make your purchase. If you accidentally sign into somebody else's Wi-Fi signal and connect through their computer, they're capturing all this information, and it's not that uncommon. It's not too hard, if you're not being careful, to allow your information to be captured. In this, I've also got a link for a Google search for you to look for VPN software. What I like to do, I personally use Norton's 360. It will run on my laptop. It will run on my iPad. It will also run on my iPhone. But it'll update between each machine, so that what I save on my laptop, I'll be able to use on my phone or my iPad when I'm away from my laptop. But that's convenience. But it's also secure. So those are some ideas or thoughts. So the last one I've covered is everything that needs to be done regardless of the device you're trying to protect. If you're on your phone, phones need to have virus detection software also. This is especially important for Android and Windows-based operating systems, because that's what hackers find easiest to break into. It's also a good idea for Apple phones or Apple devices. Apple seems to do a better job of screening software, but there are also viruses out there for Apple operating systems. So it's a good idea to have it installed there too. One thought for protecting your computer, your Windows-based computer: create 2 accounts on you. You have to create an administrator with Windows software. So the administrator account is the one that has all the access. You create another account, one that only has enough access to be able to, that allows you to do what you want to do on a day-to-day basis, and get into the habit of only using that account. That way, if somebody happens upon your regular account information and they get into your machine, they're not able to take control of it because they're not using the administrator account. Another thing I've been told by the same friend who does hacking work, white hat hacking they call it, is do not ever create a file and leave it on your desktop that contains all of your account names, your login IDs, and your passwords. That's the first place a hacker will look if they get into your machine. He said it's unbelievable how many machines that, as part of his job that he's hacked into, he's found a file like that, and it's like being given the keys to the kingdom. If you have to have a file that contains this information, don't put it in plain sight. Put it someplace several levels down in a directory perhaps, and don't give the file a name that gives a clue as to what the file contains. Finally, and I'm running out of time. I've only got, I think, 5 minutes left, so I'm going to cover the rest of this quick. Tablets, the same suggestions apply as to your phones, your desktop and laptop computers, especially as many tablets are equipped with Wi-Fi capabilities. Two more areas that we need to be aware of are text messaging and email messages. Text messages, and you've probably all seen this, you get a text message from something that is similar to something you know, but not quite. And it will have a link embedded in the message for you to follow, or it'll contain a video for you to watch. These are all invitations to get your machine hacked. You follow the web link, and it'll take you to a web page that the hacker controls. Hackers can gain information about your machine from your web browser, but they can also set things up to make you think you have to download some software. Email messages. Hackers love to spoof email. It's possible to make an email look like it came from somebody else. A common practice is to take an authentic message from somebody like FedEx or UPS or from a bank or a credit union, and to send it to you, change what the message says a little bit, and then include a link in that email message where you can use to go and sign into their website, to maybe their help desk. Chances are, if it's been hacked, that link will take you to a web page that is controlled by the hacker, and they can do bad things to you. An account to, the message tells you that your order is scheduled for delivery or to be shipped and arrive on a certain day, and the information on that invoice will contain pieces of equipment that you didn't order, or merchandise that you didn't order, and then it'll conveniently provide a link for you to register a complaint. And so, of course, they're counting on you being so upset about getting something that you didn't order that you'll go ahead and just click on that link, and it'll take you to a web page that they control. Sometimes they will even take you to that web page, and then they will, in addition to that, they'll send you on to the regular sign-on page for the vendor with Amazon or Apple. And that way they've captured your information and sent you onto the real place, and that will make it so you don't think that you've been hacked when you have been. Okay, we've only got just a minute or two left. So I've included some links to one from a federal resource, one from a training resource, Executech. These will help you to detect, learn how to recognize and avoid phishing scams, spear phishing, and to do things that make you vulnerable. The bottom line for this presentation, and I know this has been quick and it hasn't gone in deep for anything, but even though it doesn't usually cost an awful lot to access the internet, some places you can access it for free. You have to exercise as much caution when you get on the net or on the web as you would in non-internet activities. Use common sense. If it doesn't sound right, it may not be. If it's too good to be true, it may be. If you get, well, I'm not going to go into there, but as with all things in life, you get the protection you deserve. In other words, just like with your home and your car, you need to spend some money to protect your access, to protect your investment. So Kyle, I'll give this back to you now.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. It looks like we had a little bit of a glitch there at the end once again, but I think the message comes through. So let me first of all just say thank you. Great information, Doug. Things that I think that we all need to be aware of and think about. We do have a couple of questions. If you are willing to answer a couple of them, we'd like to pose those to you.
Okay.
Okay, the first one, you alluded to this earlier, but I think it's worth reiterating. So I'm going to ask the question and then you can maybe expand just a little bit on it. The question is, do you recommend any particular digital software to use for online security? I have Norton. Is that a good one? Now you had mentioned Norton, but maybe you can expand just a little bit on why you use Norton or what it even does for us.
Okay. I kind of backed into Norton in the sense that where I'm with Comcast, for several years, we had access to the Norton software and it was for free. And so I started using it then. Just this last year, they've dissolved that relationship. And so now it costs for Norton, but the Norton um, software, I like it because there are versions for your desktop for Windows, for Apple software. It can be installed on your phones, your tablets, and on your desktops. And again, they save the information. Once you create an account, they save your information on the Norton servers. But I can create an account on my laptop, and then the next day, if I'm using my iPad and I want to go to that same place, I have access to the account information that I saved. Also, the Norton 360 contains with it, as part of its service, it contains VPN software. And the VPN software will work on your iPad, your phone, your Windows software. And finally, it also contains what I consider to be a very robust password manager. You're able to set definitions or parameters around how you want the password that it will system generate for you, to make it a little bit more customized. But again, that's my preference.
Yeah, so there are plenty of packages out there, but it sounds like you've had some success with it and maybe one that you would recommend. So I appreciate that. Another question, you talked a little bit about some of the social media aspects of privacy as well as security. You covered a variety of things there. One of our users has a question. This may be a little deep, but maybe you know the answer right away. Simple question, but maybe a deeper answer. And it is there an easy way to delete a Facebook account?
I don't know the answer to that question. I know that I know you can delete a Facebook account, but I've never done it, so I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough.
But again, here, Kyle, Google it.
Yeah.
Go to Google and say, how do I delete my Facebook account?
There are help files on Facebook as well, and I mean you've really just hit on the answer to most questions. Google it, right?
Yeah.
So we'll move on from that one. Someone has asked, is there a way to obtain a physical copy of the information and the documents that you used? It sounds like you're willing to share those with us. If you are willing to give those to us, we'll definitely make those available on our website at seniorgames.net. So please know that those will be available. You also alluded to this, but maybe it's worth expanding just a little bit. We talked about, again, this is social media and Facebook. How do I limit access to my photos on Facebook? Is there a specific area, button, or process?
Yes, there is. If you'll notice when you're looking on Facebook, the upper right-hand side, there is your name, and you can click on it, and there's a drop-down box or a drop-down list. There's a settings, and then there's privacy settings. Go into that, and you may have to look around a little bit. It's been a while since I've done it. I don't remember how it looks right now, but you can change who can see what, and it gives you a whole list of things. See posts, who can post on your wall, who can see your posts on your wall, who can see your pictures, who can see your friends.
Sounds good. So very, very useful. I have a question. This is my own question. You had actually, again, touched on this, but you talked about password control packages. I know that Google Chrome and I suspect other browsers have a feature that saves your password. So when you visit a site that you visit often, it will automatically populate your username and your password. Two parts of the question. Is that a password control package that you're talking about? And is that a safe or a reliable way to manage your passwords?
Yes, it is. It is a software or a password control package that's part of many browsers. On my iPad and my iPhone, there is something called, I think it's iChain, that saves your account information. It also, when you're creating a password, it has the capability to create a password for you.
Correct.
The reason I like the Norton 360 approach is that I can use the same package, the same software across every platform I have it installed on. My iPad, my iPhone, my laptop.
That makes sense. Okay, excellent. Continuing on with that concept of software management and password management, here's a question. Wouldn't a software management package be dangerous in that all of your information is in one place for someone to have access to all of your accounts? How can you be sure it would be trustworthy?
Great question. The answer is, in my opinion, there's risk in almost anything you do. And it's just my opinion that somebody that is in the protection business, like Norton, like Symantec, like many of the others, they had better make sure that they follow all the same rules. They don't, they're going to get hacked, and they are targets for hackers right now. If they get hacked, it becomes public information and their business goes down the drain.
So just from a business model standpoint, there's a strong incentive for them to try to create a secure environment for you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Here's this last question. I love it because I wonder the same thing, and it's more philosophical than anything. But the question is it realistic to assume that privacy really exists anymore?
And that's another excellent question. I actually did when I was in college, I did a term paper on privacy. And I know that the teacher was so impressed with what I wrote and maybe a little bit scared that he wanted to be able to publish it or to pass it around to other people. In reality, it depends on how long you've been careful about what you save or what you put out there. But it depends on the vendor. For example, you create an account with a store and an online account, and you decide for your own convenience sake, you store your credit card information so that when you make a purchase, you don't have to worry about going to get your credit card and typing it all in again and everything. And then that store gets hacked. And it happens.
Yeah.
Businesses, because of the expense that's involved, businesses have a hard time with hiring the software professionals to help them, first off, design the software security
Yeah.
that they need, or following through with it, making sure that their packages are up to date with the latest release, or making sure that virus detection libraries, the signature libraries, are up to date. You hear all the time about places, businesses that are getting hacked, and it's because they didn't take the time to do what they needed to do. Consequently, I do not store my credit card information on any vendor's sites. I always put it in all over again. It's not convenient,
Right.
but then again, what is the cost of not being safe? I had one time I got caught in somebody had installed a card reader at a gas station that I used to fill my car up with.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that I tried to watch for that, but I missed it this time. And a week later, I got notified from the vendor that for my credit union, that somebody had made a charge on my credit card. It was for a huge amount, and it was for something that was abnormal for me. I was fortunate. They stopped the transaction. I was able to cancel it. I then got a new credit card number. I find all the time using software that old account numbers and old passwords that I've used are in the wild, or in the wild, as we call it.
Right.
And I'm just grateful that I don't hang on to passwords for a long period of time.
Yeah, it's a tricky question, and the more you dig into it, the more frightening it can become. But there are some common sense things that we can all at least attempt, and hopefully, in the long run, using those tips and tricks that you've shared with us today can go a long way. So, Doug, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your expertise. Thanks for sharing some very valuable information with us.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be able to spend the time with you today.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right.
And to everyone who joined us today, thank you for joining us on the Living Your Best Life webinar series. If you enjoyed today's presentation, be sure to tell your friends about it. You'll be able to access a rebroadcast of this exact show at seniorgames.net. We also want to make you aware of next month's presentation, when we are going to visit with Dr. Matt Townsend as he talks with us about the ABCs of lasting happiness and stronger mental health. This webinar will take place on Tuesday, August 17th at 11:30 a.m. through 12:30 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. And until we meet again, get out there and live your best life. Thanks, everyone.